Austin, on Sunday, how good of a feeling was that last run you had, knowing what was at stake and getting your kicker a little closer?
Yeah, it was a great feeling, and it was just a great operation too. It was just good to see that we were gonna, probably end up with the ball to the end of the game. That's one of Coach Staley's, big points that he tries to emphasize, that we want to be in control at the end of the game. So just to eat up a little bit more clock, get closer, and be able to spike it with some time left to kick a field goal was definitely a great feeling.
And that last drive, I mean, you did the same thing in Washington, basically, to start the season. Is there a momentum feeling during that? I mean, do you feel you got this past week you got a couple of fourth downs? Is there sort of a sense of, hey, we are going to do this, we're going to take all this time off?
Yeah, I think we were connecting just throughout the entire game. I felt like we had a lot of momentum just through the entire game because we were being consistent. We were making plays. We were moving the chains. We all know Coach Day is going for it on fourth down. Whether you agree with it or not, he's doing it. I thought it was great what he said this morning. It's like, people that are, you're going to go down there and not go for it, scared to death. They're scared, right? Like, what if you don't get it? It's like, no, he's trying to play so we can have the ball and end the game with it. So I love it. Hey, we're about it. Let's do it. But I felt like we were clicking. I felt like, hey, we practiced well, and then it translated to the game. And so that's what we have to do again this week.
Austin, you kind of touched on this a little bit, but Keenan said after the game that he felt like it was the first time all season that you guys were like really clicking offensively, didn't punt in the game, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Do you agree that it was maybe a step forward, like Keenan was saying, for you guys?
I think it's, I think we've shown just that level of play before, in the beginning of the season. I think we got away from it just because our consistency, even in the beginning of the season, I think we only had like 2 punts in like the first 3 or 4 games, something like that. And so it just felt good to feel like, okay, hey, we got a rhythm back. Whatever we did this week, which I already know what we did as far as practice going into it, everyone was making sure, hey, consistent, hey, efficiency at the ball, hey, operation. It'll be the same thing this week and today, just making sure, because that's where it starts, really. Like, hey, how consistent were we in practice? As far as catching balls, making that tackle. And it all just translates to the game. So, looking forward to doing that again. And I feel like, we can play that at that level, but it starts, during the week.
Austin, for the running game, the numbers weren't that high to start the game, but that final drive, you guys got it going for that rushing attack. What did you guys do running that final drive with the blocking and for yourself to get some yards going?
Yeah, in the run game, you never know what kind of day it's going to be going into it. Always have some optimism, think you have a good plan going into it. But, when reality strikes, sometimes it's, hey, it's going to be a 3-4 yard ground per play run, So that's what it was. It was a game where it's like, hey, all right, we're going to be pounding the ball. And if it was not working, Jay Hurt's going to be whipping it over the top. And that was what was working for us that game. So I'm glad that we didn't come away from the run, especially on the last drive, because we obviously wanted to keep the clock running. And, just maybe them playing a little bit more aggressive, trying to, back us up, ended up opening up some creases, which has allowed us to run the ball a little bit more effectively on the last drive.
You look at this weekend, and obviously you guys are facing a Minnesota Vikings team that has Anthony Barr, Everson Griffin. Just what have you seen from their defense, and what makes it challenging to face them?
Zimmer's defenses, I feel like, have always been pretty stout. Just from his looks, just his knowledge of the game, you see it just trickle across the entire league as far as people taking things from him. And so it's a challenge for us. They're a great team. I don't think their record really reflects, how good of a team they really are. And so we have to respect that going into this game like we do every single week. And, we have a plan for it because we have a feeling of what we know is coming. But, look, it's going to come down to Sunday, man. Sundays, it's wild because, especially this year. I don't know if it's this year more particular, but I feel like, you got to show up because we're seeing teams that are like, they're probably going to beat this team. And no, they end up losing or it's a really close game. And that's what I love about this game, man. It's just so competitive. So I'm looking forward to competing. We're going to have a plan. How it goes, we'll see.
Do you feel like the season's been a little bit crazier than most? Like, obviously the Cincy beats the Baltimore, and then the Jets beat Cincinnati. Like, do you feel like it's kind of been a little bit loopy this year?
I don't know. Maybe there's more emphasis because we're backing fans, and maybe there's a little bit more media attention on just kind of this stuff. I'm not sure if that's it, but from my perspective, it does feel like, man, it's a little bit more exciting as far as the competition level, just across the entire league. We were on one of those ends where it's like, hey, we're going against the Baltimore Ravens, and, it's probably going to be a good game. We get destroyed. Like, obviously, like, I don't want to have that, but it's like, man, like, it just reminds me of the NFL, why this is so exciting, and why, it's so important to, prepare every single week, no matter who you're playing. If they only have one winner, it doesn't really matter. We saw that with, the Bills and the Jags. Like, who saw that game coming? But it's exciting, right? It's exciting. I love it. And, I'm looking forward to this week. So we'll see. Like I said, we'll have a game plan, go out there and execute as well as we can.
Hey, you just touched on it moments ago, saying why the offense kind of got out of whack, if you will, and what got you guys back in rhythm. Who on the team, on the offensive side of the ball, whether it's a receiver, it's a quarterback, the offensive line, the running back group, kind of cracks the whip and say, hey, guys, let's get in rhythm. Let's focus on what we need to do.
I'm not really sure what got us out of whack. I didn't say that, or I would have, obviously not let that happen. We as a staff wouldn't have. But, it came back to, like, okay, we've lost 2 games in a row. And it came down to, just us as leaders as far as coming down from Coach Staley and then Joe and then myself, Jay Herb, Keenan out there, JC, always just said, as far as the offensive side, like making sure everyone's locked in. Like, hey, we have to be locked in on all this stuff. We can't have these alignment errors that are costing us stuff. And it's just from our older guys where it came from. It's because, like, hey, we've been around this game. Like, we understand these details all matter. But it takes that vocal stuff. It's not necessarily because we're not thinking about it, but it's always just a reminder. It's like, okay, yeah, you're right. Okay, everyone's on the same page. Let me make sure I'm doing my job, getting lined up, being able to execute. And, then we got to make plays on top of that, which always helps. I think we lack some consistency, just like converting in the past, too. And there's past few games as far as just dropping balls here and there, which obviously cost you.
Keenan said on Monday that once this offense starts clicking for real, that it's going to be scary. Do you kind of share the same sentiment?
Yeah, I mean, shoot, we've shown that already, but we've also shown the other side. So, for us, yeah, we've shown that, hey, we could be a really explosive offense. At the beginning of the year, everyone's like, oh, look at the Chargers. Then we lost 2 in a row, and there's like, everyone's like, we'll see how they play. So it is what it is. That's what we've earned. It just shows, like, hey, just because we have a lot of great talent on the team doesn't mean we can slack and we can, maybe be a little bit not as locked in during practice, right? Because it bleeds, right? It bleeds onto the game, and then when it bleeds into the game, you're not as consistent, and when you're not as consistent, it leads to losses.
Austin, you had a run in the first half against the Eagles where you ran somebody over, and then going back to the previous week, you had that 5-yard touchdown at the goal line where you just kept your legs moving. How much pride do you take in just like finishing runs that way?
I mean, I feel like that's just part of my game. I think I remember Richard Smith, one of our linebacker coaches here, he used to grade me after every year. He's like, one thing about you, man, he's like, you always end like moving forward. Use my center of gravity moving forward, just, lower body power. So I think that's just been part of my game for a long time. And I mean, I'm built with leverage, right? So it's easy for me to get underneath someone's pads. But that's just been part of my game. I think that's why I've just been so consistent in the run as far as like average like 4 or 5 yards a carry, because it's just like, all right, you stop me, but I'm still trucking, falling for it. It's not like I'm Derrick Henry falling and I'm already 3 yards tall, but give me a few 1 or 2 going forward.
I'm saying, but like running somebody over like that, how does that, like early in a game, how can that?
Feels great, man. Yeah. I remember I was laughing like, yeah, let's go, let's juice. Because it gets, the whole offense fired up, right? When people make plays, that's what we love to see. We get hype, We got JJ who's mic'd up last week, man, seeing him, just getting hype when people make plays. And that's what it's about as a team, right? We work so hard during the week. It's like, man, once we see our other teammates and ourselves making plays, it's just contagious,
Were you surprised on that 4th and 2 that they didn't give it to you? The one where you jumped over?
Yeah, I don't know. Did it? Was I short? Like, I didn't even see, like, the film view. Right on the line?
It was like a hop thing.
Yeah. I don't know. I was like, I thought I had it too. I was like, yeah, first down. And then ended up not getting it. And then, like I said, Coach Staley was like, hey, we're trying to end with the ball in our hands. That's what we went for in the next play. So got it then.
You see this Minnesota team kind of similarities to maybe of you guys last year and the year before, many close losses, big leads, and just knowing how dangerous of a team that is?
Yeah. Shoot, I could even say that for us. There's a lot of teams where it's like, man, one play here or there, one call here or there, and your record looks a lot different. even for us here, I think of the Kansas City game. If we don't get that, penalty on 4th and 9, the game's over. Same thing with the Browns game. We get another penalty, those like pass interference on Mike Williams, first down, or the game would have been over then. And so it was like 1 or 2 plays here. That's literally how tight these games have been, which makes it really exciting. Make sure that, hey, like we got to be really on our stuff. It doesn't have to be close, but that's what the games that we've been in. And it seems like they've been in very similar games. Especially with their last game versus Baltimore, where they're coming out with a 2-score lead, right? Ended up, what was that, overtime? I think, yeah, overtime. And so it comes down to the week, man. I'm not gonna say like, oh, they're a good team that we are gonna sleep on, because we know they're a good team. And we know the record's 3-5, but it could easily be what we are. We could be what they are. So it's like every single week. You can't really look at someone's record. You got to go in saying, hey, this is gonna be another NFL team. They're gonna play as hard as they can, just like we are. So it's not like this is supposed to be an easy win or anything like that. There's no easy wins in the NFL.
Austin, you and the running backs overall have had a lot of success running behind the left side of the line, Rashawn, Matt, and Corey. Just how much of a weapon is that trio in the running game?
Yeah, those guys were rolling, man.
Yeah.
Those guys were rolling. There's a couple clips of Matt pancaking people. Corey's always reaching people. Rashawn's obviously he's been locked down in the pass game and blowing people off the ball in the run game. And those guys are rolling right now. So that's been a strength for us in our offense in the pass and run game.
You got a message to Charger fans to come out and support? Obviously, we know the Vikings fans, they travel to come out and support you guys in SoFi.
Man, even before the season, my hype speech that I gave out in the SoFi Stadium for the season ticket holders. So I'm always a big advocate of fans coming out just to support the game. I'm a big community guy, just as far as just because I appreciate people that have supported the organization of the NFL, the Chargers, myself, because that allows me to live this life that I live. So as far even if it's there's probably gonna be a bunch of Vikings fans in there. That's just been the our situation with the last few years here. Even I remember in StubHub they had the Skull chat going. For me, I'm like, I love it. I love it regardless who it is, because I love the energy. I love just the passion that people put into this sport. Obviously, I wish it was all Chargers fans. So, hey, I'm just wanting people out there in the stands making some energy, whether it's for us, against us, get out there. It don't matter, because we're going to play as hard as we can and ball out.